Good morning, everyone. It's morning and time, and I just want to say happy Friday and thank you for joining us today. We have a special episode because right now we have, as you can see, 3 guests joining us instead of just one. And I would like to take some time to introduce you all to Jennifer, Shane, and Renee from Lanco Integrated. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing?
Good.
Hi.
Good morning,
Hello.
Meaghan.
So before we get started, I would just like to go down the line and ask for an introduction for each of you, what you do at Lanco. And then Renee, if you want to dive a little bit deeper and tell us a little about Lanco and some of the products and services that you provide. So who would like to go first?
Jennifer, jump in there.
Sure thing. I'm Jen. I'm a controls designer at Lanco. I have held a different position up until very recently. I was an electrical technician involved in the assembly of our machines, but now I am doing the design aspect.
Shane, do you want to go?
Sure, I'm Shane. I'm considered a manufacturing project leader, which means once the machines have gotten out of engineering and procurement and whatnot, I'm in charge of making sure they go smoothly on the floor all the way through from the beginning of the build to install and into the customer's hands.
And Renee, how about yourself?
Hi, nice to meet you all. I'm Renee. I'm in marketing with Lanco Integrated. We build custom assembly systems. So many products that you might use daily or you might see in a hospital setting or a defense company, our machines assemble those products.
You had a lot to do too in the helping of what was happening with COVID, correct?
We did, in fact, yes. During COVID, Lanco was called on by a number of medical manufacturers, specifically diagnostic type medical manufacturers, and they kind of asked us to build assembly systems for them that assembled COVID-19 diagnostic test kits. We built upwards of 10 systems, and this was done globally. We are not just based in the US, but we are based in other locations. Our systems, when you kind of look at the numbers and how frequently they're run per shift with these manufacturers, we're producing upwards of 600 million test kits a year.
Wow.
So the global demand, as you could imagine, for 2020 and 2021 was, enormous. And so it's just nice to see that what you do and the company you work for has made such a global impact.
That's great. So before we get started with the other questions that I have for all of you, you brought a video with you. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about is recruiting the next workforce, because I know you as a company are facing some challenges when looking for skilled talent to come and fill some of the positions that you have available. So I'm going to pull that video up into the screen.
Lanco is an integrator.
We build integrated automated assembly lines for our customers, and depending on what their product is, depends on what the machine is that we build for them.
We're in the consumer market, medical field. We do a lot of automotive, aerospace, defense. You name it, we've probably designed a machine for it. You're always learning here. You're doing new things every day, very high paced.
Kind of didn't want to have just sitting in an office shop and be able to do the programming and sometimes actually get some hands-on experience.
That's a very cool place to work.
Lanco is a great place to make a career.
The company recognized my growth in skill and leadership and promoted me up through the ranks as opportunity provided.
Lanco does a good job of trying to find the best fit for you, and we'll work with you to try to realize those goals.
We have customers all over the world.
I've traveled all over the world, spent a month in Asia and Europe, and got to see a lot of really cool places.
Lanco is an employee-owned company.
You do get direct compensation on our bottom line, so if the company does well, you do well.
If you enjoy tinkering on things, working on your own vehicles, taking things apart, anything mechanical or electrical, sky's the limit. I mean, with the backing that we have and all of our team members, we can do whatever we put our minds to. I mean, the things that we do are awesome. Why wouldn't you want to work here?
I think that is a fantastic video because it's actually touching on a lot of the trends that are happening within manufacturing right now and showcasing some of the positions that some of these other manufacturing companies are having a really hard time filling. So you have, and just a compliment to your facility too. It looks very clean and it looks very high tech, which actually proves wrong the misconception that manufacturing is dirty, dark, dull, and dangerous. So I applaud that showcase of a wonderful facility right there. And I wanted to get started with, more with the question towards Jennifer and Shane. Was manufacturing and engineering something that you were always interested in while growing up? Because one of my goals here for Mavens of Manufacturing is trying to figure out, where there's disconnect in connecting the next generation workforce to what we're actually doing in engineering and manufacturing. And I see a pattern that, men, on one side, they are exposed to things that, are heavily involved with STEM opportunities, whereas women are exposed to other things such as like nursing or education or markets like that. So I'm just curious to know how both of you got started within STEM to hopefully see, where there's similarities and where there's differences. So Shane, do you want to start off with your journey within STEM?
Sure. I started right from young. I would take apart my bike, fix that. I've actually grew up with a machine shop in my basement. I've kind of been in this since the very beginning. I worked with another automation company for quite a while and moved to Lanco. I've never done anything else. I started when I was 19. I tried a couple colleges, and that's because I was told I had to go to college. It was not exactly the right fit. I work with my hands, I learn with my hands, and that's kind of where it began. So from day one, running around a machine shop, barefoot in my basement, that's kind of where I started.
That's probably an OSHA violation if you were barefoot.
Might have been, yeah. But I was 5 or so it didn't count.
But you were in your basement, so it's fine. No one will report you. How about you, Jennifer? How did you get started within engineering and manufacturing? What were some of the things that got you excited about STEM opportunities?
So I, like Shane, kind of grew up in my grandfather's basement, but there wasn't a machine shop down there. But it was tinkering, taking apart my bike, whatever he was working on, is just staying involved and not being bored around the house. As I grew into high school and some of that early education stuff, it was a lot of the wood shop classes, metal shop classes, community service learning projects where we built things for the community. And then life kind of just took over, and I wasn't in this sector at all. I was in the customer service, food prep type of stuff. And then I decided that I wanted to go back to school and took a tour of a local community college and saw the electromechanical program that they were offering. And I was like, I think I could probably do okay at this, and went back to school. And then within the last couple months of my school program, Lanco came and presented some intern opportunities. And so I jumped right on there and was taken on as an intern. And then as soon as I graduated, I was offered a full-time position, and I've been here ever since.
So when you say you went back to school, what type of schooling did you do? Because I know that there are opportunities for 4-year universities or colleges where you can get like a bachelor's degree in mechanical or electrical engineering, or also pursue like a higher education type career pathway, getting your master's and your doctorate and stuff. And then you also have your vocational schools, which, offer a shorter track to certain areas within engineering and manufacturing. So what type of schooling did you go back to get where you are today?
It was just a community college where I did a 2-year. I came out with an associate's degree in electromechanical engineering and half of the hours that it would take to sit for my journeyman's electrician's license.
Okay. So in a previous conversation that I had with Renee, the topic of gender disparity came up. And one of the questions that I asked you, Renee, was, do you have women that are working at your facility? What is the ratio between men and women? And you brought up Jennifer, and that's why she's here too. And I'm happy to hear that she is on a career pathway where she's excelling and getting promoted to different positions. And I'm wondering, what sort of challenges are you facing as a company to get more women into Lanco, and not even just women, because you're struggling just to find talent overall. So what are some of the things as a company that you're facing? Where are those challenges coming from?
Well, we're headquartered in the state of Maine. So here in Maine, there are actually a good amount of manufacturers. And when it comes to the talent pool, whether it be men or women, the demand exceeds the supply. So there's a number of highly skilled people here. That's not the problem. The problem is it all falls to a limited supply of people. We don't have enough people to hire, and we certainly we recently brought in a recruitment company, and over the past 4 months, they've been able to get 22 new people in our door, which is fantastic. They're great to work with, but we still need more. We still need more. I think during COVID, the heart of COVID, so 2020, we lost roughly 11% of our workforce here in the state of Maine within Lanco. And that was a significant amount of people for us. And it was just not due to health or anything like that. It was due to people not being comfortable. We're a manufacturer, so you have to come into work to build the system. So some people maybe weren't comfortable coming in, which is certainly their choice. But we're trying to make up ground from all the people that we lost. And our business demand and people hiring us didn't decrease. So we still, we had all those medical manufacturers coming to us, and hold on one moment. And they, and sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
So, we had continued to gain traction with our demand and people wanting to hire us, but we lost a significant amount of our workforce. So trying to catch up. It's been great that we've had 22 new people come in our door. We're very grateful for that, but we still need more, and it would be great to understand if there is a way to maybe capture more of an audience outside of Maine, to see what's out there. Is there a way to strategically bring in some folks that are maybe wanting to change the state they live in and find a new home in Maine?
So with your recruiting company that you were working for, were they just looking specifically within the state of Maine, or were they looking into other areas outside of Maine and maybe even on an international level, or was it just within Maine?
So currently, I believe it's more held to Maine. It very well could be maybe New Hampshire, because New Hampshire is roughly 45 minutes from us. So, the border. So I don't actually know the answer to that. That question. That's a good question.
I would be interested too in knowing if there's maybe some sort of additional cost of going outside of a certain radius. One of my colleagues, Joe Sullivan, he and his business partner, they do a Gorilla 76 marketing company for manufacturers, and they just posted something on the cost of what the costs are to hiring new employees. And I was blown away because I didn't think that it would be that much bringing on a new employee. And then if you don't keep that employee, it could cost you even more. So with this set of 22, are you concerned about retention with any of them, or do you feel like you have a good group that are going to be on for the long term?
Shane, do you want to?
There's always some concern with retention. I often find we bring 10 people in, it's 5 to 7 that will make the cut. What we do is not trivial, and it takes a certain amount of skill. And yeah, we out of 22, be nice to keep 18. It's a little bit of a ratio there that they don't all work out.
Can you touch on some of the things that you do as a company to maybe help retain the employees that you have there? Like, what are some of the things that you incorporate within your work culture that make new employees especially feel comfortable? I know Jennifer just got promoted to a new type of position. So she started out as an intern. She clearly likes her company if she's sticking around for the long haul. So I don't know, maybe Renee, you can touch on some of the things that you do to help retain customers. And then Jennifer, maybe you can discuss what it is that Lanco does as an employer to make it enjoyable to come to work every single day.
Yeah. So for us, we actually are an employee-owned company.
Okay.
So you kind of step up, and it's our company just as much as it is the board's company and our CEO, our CFO. So we're all kind of empowered to be employee owners, and it has a lot of benefits. So you have stock ownership in the company. And even though we are not a public company, it's just a great way to feel that you really have a voice. We have what's called the employee. Oh my goodness, I just lost the words. The idea system. Sorry. So
Okay.
we do something called the idea system here, where we have a set goal that we need to meet of ways that we enter into the system, ideas that we're going to act on to improve the company. So that's one of the segments that we it's part of our job. We have to come up with ways to improve how things are functioning here at Lanco. So it really does make you feel like your opinion matters, what you have a voice, and you are an owner in this company. So it's really nice if anybody's ever worked for a corporation. I have. You don't have as much of a voice typically when you're working for a larger corporation.
I 100% agree with that. So, Go ahead, Jennifer.
Well, I actually drive a considerable distance to get to Lanco every morning. And I live a stone's throw from BIW, which is General Dynamics, which could certainly work there. But I'd much rather work for the smaller company where everybody knows your name. The guy sitting next to me has over 30 years of experience that he's happy to share if you're asking the right questions and can show that you're actually engaged. You're always doing something different, and there's so many different answers. It's a great place to come to work.
And Shane, I'm going to direct this question to you as well. I mean, what are some of the things because you're a leader in the company and you oversee some of the things that go on. What are some of the things that you do personally to get people excited about what they do at Lanco? And, how do you encourage your team to keep doing the best that they can do when they show up to work? How do you make it fun?
I like to think that I'm fun. No, they, I always encourage my guys to be constantly asking questions. You're learning. I tell them I've been in this industry for 20 plus years, and I will go to the guy who's been here for 30 years on a daily basis and ask for something. And I want my guys to do the same for me. I've got a wealth of knowledge in this, so come on over. I will gladly share and encourage you guys to learn. I want to teach. I want to mentor, get everybody learning on this stuff. There's no need for my knowledge to stay with me. I want to make sure that I'm teaching everybody anything that they can learn. And I think that we try to make that enjoyable for everybody around.
I like that you use the term mentorship. And I also like that you stated you don't want your knowledge to just stay with you, because that is part of the one of the main issues in manufacturing and engineering right now. We have all of these baby boomers who are set to retire, and they're going to be taking that knowledge with them. And if we don't start sharing that with the next generation workforce, it's going to be a huge problem. And I also noticed too, with the summit that I did October 22nd, teachers for tech education are even retiring, and there's a shortage of teachers to come in and just teach the basics of whether it's CNC machining or welding or CAD design. It's definitely a great need for teachers as well. In terms of the next generation workforce, where does Lanco go, or how does Lanco get connected with your community to maybe inspire those younger generations? What are some of the things you're doing as a company to get involved more with the community, so you're not just having conversations with students, but also conversations with their parents who might still be afraid of a career pathway in manufacturing because some of the instability that they experienced, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, when manufacturing really took a hit? What are some of the things you're doing as a company?
As a company, pre-COVID, our Lanco employees would have in robotics teams from the local high schools, and they would kind of mentor them, teach them weekly, and help them get ready for their competitions. In addition to that, we also work with local STEM colleges to invite their students in as interns, so they can learn all the different stages from design, build, and installation of our systems. As far as reaching out to the parents, I'm not quite sure if we also have dialogue with the parents. Shane, do you know if that's?
I don't know how much we go toward the parents. I do know, kind of touching on the pre-COVID robotics stuff, we also would have full classes just come and do tours of the place. There'd be plenty of times we'd have 2-3 groups of 20 kids come through here in a week. And I know we got a lot of people come back from those tours or connections from them later on down the line. And that's
Shane, it's actually neat you say that, because a couple of days ago, I had a lead come in, and it was this lady who she works for a medical device manufacturing company, They're a new startup, so they have a new product, and they're looking for their first test system. And she contacted Lanco because when she was in high school, she went to a high school in Gorham. She took a tour of our facility, and that resonated with her. She remembered coming through, and she said, let's reach out to Lanco to see if we can, start some dialogue to maybe get a system from them. So people, it's neat to hear like this was 10 years ago and she remembered us from 10 years ago, and now she's in her career, and she still remembered who we were and what we did, and now she's reaching out for her company. So it was kind of neat.
I think that's great. We did get a comment from David Chrysler. He said, it's great that you're open to recruiting outside of your immediate area. Perhaps you could use some content marketing to help with this. Daniel Bennett, Jeff Long, maybe you guys would have some ideas to add to this too. And those two gentlemen that he is mentioning, they all work within the marketing space as well too. So are there things that you're doing on the marketing side to kind of not just attract potential customers that Lanco might want to target, but are you doing things within your marketing strategy to get in touch with that next generation workforce? What sort of things are you creating or putting out there to get in front of some of these teachers or even schools?
Yeah, so different videos are put out through social media, of course. The recruiting really is, it starts within HR. So I certainly will jump in to help out as much as possible. But it's currently more held within HR. And certainly through social channels, we try to get information out.
Okay. So Shane and Jennifer, this is sort of just a question for your insight on what you think might be the disconnect. You both grew up in an environment where you were taught how to tinker things. You were just exposed to it right away when you were younger. So where do you think there might be a disconnect in terms of, kids that are getting ready to graduate college or entering high school? What are you seeing or hearing why they might not be interested in STEM opportunities, such as some of the things that you're doing at Lanco? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that, and it's changing quickly, but for a long time, you were told to go to a four-year college, and the trade schools, the community colleges, the tech stuff, that was just a different ball game that, you didn't get into. And I think, like I said, it's changing, and people are realizing that coming out of four-year school with a mountain of debt doesn't necessarily gain you the same thing as going to learn a skill, a trade that can get you right into the workforce quickly. That I think we're seeing more of that now, which is a good thing. But I believe for a long time that was a big part of not getting people into this.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Jennifer?
Well, I kind of feel that we grew up in a time where things weren't as disposable. The things that we were tinkering with got broken and they needed to be fixed. So just because out of necessity, that's what we were doing. If something breaks these days, 9 times out of 10, you're probably just going to throw it out and replace it and get a new one. So
That's
maybe
so
the
true.
younger generation just isn't picking up on the tinkering.
I think that's such a great point because, there was a time too where a lot of those tech education programs, depending on what community you were in or what state you were in, they got their budget cut and were completely dispersed of. So some schools didn't even have those programs available for the students to take. So I think that's a really good point that you brought up. I know when I went to high school, I wasn't aware of the type of opportunities that may have been, connected with robotics or computer programming. I did take one computer programming class and it was just a disaster. I'm surprised I even passed it. My final project was like a tic-tac-toe game and it did not work out at all. But like tech education, wood tech I took in 7th grade and that was one of my favorite classes. But I don't know if maybe counselors in high schools need more assistance in how they're talking about some of these opportunities. I know with the high school that I visited, they're discussing of maybe changing some of the titles of these courses because kids that are outside of engineering and manufacturing, like if they don't have a family member who's involved with it, they're not necessarily going to know what CNC means. And so if you look at a course description that has CNC machining, they're probably going to overlook it because they don't know what it means and it's not going to strike anything interested to them. I know in a previous conversation that we had, Shane, you mentioned the amount of women that have been working at Lanco. So initially it was a very low number. It's still a low number, but it's increased a little bit. What are some of your thoughts on the dynamic of women in STEM, in engineering and manufacturing? And, what would you like to see happen to get more women involved, especially at Lanco?
I think that it does come back a little bit to that schooling. Now everybody's being encouraged to get into a trade, get into and work with your hands, see what you're doing. There's obviously been a cultural shift as well that it's women are safer and more comfortable in our environments as opposed to 10 years, 5 years ago. I mean, now we treat people the same, and I know back in the day that was not the case, and it's just getting better from here. So we all have the same opportunity to learn this stuff, so we should be taking advantage of that.
And I know, because I've been in manufacturing since 2008, and there is still kind of that negative stuff that happens where, comments are made and, certain discussions happen. And you, as a woman, you kind of need thick skin for that type of, stuff that happens and just ignore it and, keep your character. Jennifer, with your experience, it sounds like Lanco is progressing forward and doing a great job, trying to bring women in and making the environment comfortable. So what are some of the things that you as a woman enjoy within engineering and manufacturing, specifically with a company like Lanco?
Well, if you'd asked me this question a month ago before I started my new position, it would have been just building with my hands and making something from a spool of wire into a beautiful functioning machine. Because to be honest, in that position, as soon as it lit up and turned on, I could walk away from it and it was done. But just the satisfaction of making these aesthetically pleasing functional modules is what I really look forward to.
We just got another comment in from Jessica Wilbur. She said, I spent $60,000 on a fashion degree. I love turning a raw material into a finished product. Shop class wasn't advertised to girls in high school. No one told me mechanical engineering was a thing. And by fate, I ended up in manufacturing. If I had that $60,000 back, I would invest in a 5-axis machine. That's awesome.
Well, it's funny that you say the number 60,000 because as a nice side note, in the state of Maine, there's actually a student debt program for people that are in the STEM field. And if you live and work in Maine, you can apply and potentially get up to $60,000 of your student loan debt paid back. So
maybe I should move to Maine and apply for that because my student debt is ridiculous. I actually opened up with that at the summit I did, and I let all the students know in the high school. I was like, yeah, if you want this amount of debt, follow the track that I went down because you'll still be paying it off right now, and it's not a good thing. So what are some of the things that engineering and manufacturing offer? And this is a question for all three of you in terms of, that life work balance. Because, there's this big misconception, especially for some moms in manufacturing that, I've heard a lot. They don't want to pursue engineering or manufacturing because it doesn't give them the flexibility to be a mom and work, which is not all the way true. I'm a mom and I'm in manufacturing and able to do both. So I was just wondering, what are some of those value added benefits engineering and manufacturing offer to those who are in the sector?
It's interesting that you say that women are hesitant about going into the field because they like being a mom. But I feel like dads are just as important and dads work too. And so it's kind of, when you have both working parents, either way, you're still showing up at the end of your workday and you're being a parent. So I think getting away from just thinking about, men versus women, we all can balance it, and us four or us three here, or all four of us are proof of that, right? We all work within this industry, and we all have kids. So I think just getting away from that misconception of the mom is the most important parent, and it takes too much time to be within the industry. That's not the case. I think all parents are important, and we all can manage it.
Are there any creative ways that Lanco is considering or has pursued in terms of, being creative, of offering like flex hours or anything like that? What are some of the things that you promote to new potential employees to hook them into coming on to Lanco and work for you?
To be honest, the Flex Start is the biggest benefit to working here. I'm able to put my kid on the bus regardless of whether the bus is 5 minutes late or 5 minutes early, and I'm not rushing down the highway to make sure that I'm on time. I'm putting in my hours, I'm getting my job done, and then I'm going home so that I can be the mom, which is my other full-time job. You know what I mean? The Flex Start is the biggest benefit to working here.
Renee, do you have? Oh, go ahead, Shane.
Something I see, and Lanco especially, because we are very flexible. But it's one of the things that I feel with manufacturing in our line is, as long as we get the job done, we have the flexibility to do it when it needs, when we want to do it. I go in very early to work so I can get out of work at a decent hour. If I get my job done, now I've put in my 8 to 10 hours, regardless of when that occurred. There's just a lot of flexibility in that, where we're not necessarily forward-facing toward the general public having to have a 9 to 5 type deal. We have a lot of room for movement there.
I think that's really key, because I know some companies will even allow some of their employees to come in on a Saturday or Sunday, or even the weekends if they, need to take 2 days during the weekday to take care of whatever they need to in their personal lives. And I think if you can just, like you said, Shane, put in those hours and be productive, then it should all work out in the end. One final question that I have, and maybe this is a question for you, Renee, in terms of like getting the next generation excited about engineering and manufacturing and other STEM opportunities. I know that it takes a village, especially with, some that might think manufacturing and engineering isn't a place for them because they don't have good math skills or good science skills. Is Lanco doing anything in terms of like creating a mentorship program, or, providing internships that, students can come in and actually do hands-on activities while either getting school credit or getting some sort of compensation for the work that they're doing? Like, what are you doing specifically to connect with that generation and helping them get the courage to maybe pursue something in engineering and manufacturing?
Yeah, that's so kind of what I was speaking to before. We certainly do the robotics programs where the kids will come in, we'll mentor them. In addition to the robotics, they are also seeing what Lanco's doing here. So I think, is probably a great way to motivate them, and they're getting mentored by some top either mechanical engineers, electrical engineers in the process, maybe programmers. So I think that's a great one. The reality is with COVID, we have not been able to have as many people in as we would typically like, and schools aren't allowing at this time students to really come in, take those tours, because they have parameters that they have to follow to ensure everybody's safety during this pandemic. So right now it's kind of, we're not able to do the outreach we would like to, but that's because of rules that are in place with both our company and also the schools. As far as working at Lanco, it's something that, if you like doing things that are exciting and something that is different and not in a place that doesn't put you in a box, then it's a great place for people to come and learn. And I think Shane said it earlier, as people, come in and they're new to our company, we have such a diverse workforce here. There's people that have been working here 30 years. There's people that have been here 20 years. And so you're getting all of that knowledge and you're learning from people that are just top-notch people in the industry. So it is a great place to definitely start your career for sure, because you're learning everything, from the get-go.
So before I let all of you go, I know that your biggest challenge right now, just with a lot of other manufacturers within the sector, is getting that talent in the door. You just hired 22 people, but you need more. For anyone that's listening out there, what would your biggest ask be for them in terms of maybe helping you connect to someone that could be a fit for Lanco?
The biggest ask, I guess, we are, we're open to ideas for sure of how we can maybe, again, recruit, even if it's outside of the state, find some additional folks. And again, it's not that the people of Maine aren't, don't fit the bill. It's just, we just don't have enough people to pull from to fill all the spots.
Can you share some of the opportunities that you have available for employment, and maybe that can help trigger something with someone out there and say, oh, I know a person that could do that, or I know someone who's really talented in that area. So can you name some of those positions you're looking to fill?
We're looking for project management positions. Shane, do you know on the floor what all we're looking for?
We're looking for technicians. We're looking for programmers. Machine shop always needs people. Anything on the assembly side, we are looking for it right now. So
and
electricians,
Shane,
mechanical guys, everything.
And what type of skill sets really stand out to you in terms of, telling yourself, yeah, that's a person I want working side by side with me?
Some of it comes down to intuition, the eye for it. That's something we see. If you come in and I watch you run a set of wires or install one of our stanchions, and I see that it's immediately crooked and you move on, there's a problem. If I see that you took a time to clean those wires up or make sure that piece was square, then you have a good chance.
Great. Well, any final advice from any of you before I let you go and enjoy the rest of your week, your Friday, and then into your weekend? What advice would you like to give? Jennifer, I'm going to put you on the spot. As a woman who is in the technical aspect of things in engineering and manufacturing, for girls who might think that it's not a space for them, what would you say to them?
Just try it out. You never know what you can do until you give it a try. And just because you don't do it right the first time doesn't mean that the second time or third time won't get you there. My youngest is 10, and I've really, by going back to school and getting this job and working here, has opened her eyes to the amount of opportunities. She was recently exposed to COVID at school, so we had to go through the whole testing and everything. And when they pulled out the COVID test and she saw that it was the same, so I'm kind of corny and I keep like little mementos of machines that I've run off. And so on my dresser, there's one of the cards, and she's like, why do you have one of these? And the doctor has one. And she was very, very inquisitive. And I was like, well, that's because we made those machines. And her eyes lit up, and she kind of just realized how big things turn into. And you just have a small part, and you can be a small part of something really big.
That is such a cool story. What about you, Shane or Renee? What advice would you give?
The same, just go for it. Come on in and try it out.
I 100% agree. Sometimes you just have to try a new kind of career, and you never know what it will bring you. So manufacturing has been a great industry to work within.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank the three of you again for taking time out of your day to join me on Mavens of Manufacturing. To anyone out there that's listening, you heard the type of positions that Lanco's looking for. You heard the type of environment that it is, some of the technology that they're using, the skill sets that they're looking for. I'm originally from the East Coast. It's a beautiful area out there. So if anyone has a person in mind, or maybe a recruiting agency in mind that can offer assistance to Lanco, please let them know, get in contact with them. Renee, what is the best way for someone to get in touch with you if they have someone in mind that could help develop your workforce?
So if you go to our website, lancointegrated.com, we have a contact us section, and just fill out the brief form, and we'll certainly follow up immediately.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend, and make sure to tune in next week for another Mavens of Manufacturing. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thank you, Meaghan.
Bye.
This episode of Mavens has been sponsored by Fresh Horizons Group. Fresh Horizons Group is a family-run company that was founded on the premise of helping organizations and businesses better tell their story through high-quality branded apparel and promotional items. Freshen up your brand by contacting Fresh Horizons today at freshhorizonsgroup.com.